3 family emergencies in 4 months, all requiring my property. The 4th emergency was federal agents at their door. Hey friends! Got a sec? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe. It's quick for you, but it really means a lot to the channel. Alright, let's dive into today's story. Initial post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some perspective from strangers who aren't emotionally invested in my family drama. I'm a 28-year-old civil engineer who recently started my own consultancy firm after working for a major construction company for 6 years. Through careful saving and some lucky project bonuses, I managed to purchase a duplex in a rapidly developing area of our city 18 months ago. I live in one unit and rent out the other, which helps cover most of the mortgage. It's my first real asset, and I'm incredibly proud of what I've achieved, especially considering I put myself through college with loans and part-time work while my parents focused their financial support on my younger sister. My parents are both accountants. My father runs his own small firm with 3 other CPAs, and my mother works as a senior accountant at the same firm. They've always been financially comfortable, driving luxury cars and taking expensive vacations twice a year. My sister, who's 26, started an event planning business 2 years ago with significant financial backing from our parents. She's always been the golden child, the creative one, the charming one, the one who could do no wrong. Over the past 4 months, I've noticed a disturbing pattern that's making me question everything I thought I knew about my family. It started small. My mother called me crying one evening, saying my father had been diagnosed with a heart condition and they needed help with medical bills not covered by insurance. She asked if I could take out a home equity line of credit on my duplex to help them. When I offered to help with my savings instead, she insisted it wouldn't be enough and became angry when I suggested we look at their insurance coverage more carefully. 2 weeks later, before I'd even had time to fully process the first request, my sister called me in hysterics. She claimed she'd been sued by a client for a wedding that went wrong, and the legal fees were going to bankrupt her. She begged me to co-sign a loan using my duplex as collateral. When I asked to see the legal documents, she said there wasn't time and accused me of not trusting her. The 3rd incident happened just last week. My parents invited me to dinner, which should have been my first red flag since family dinners had become increasingly rare unless they needed something. Halfway through the meal, they presented me with documents they wanted me to sign, claiming it was for family financial planning and would help with estate taxes. When I said I'd need to have my lawyer review them first, my father's face turned red, and he accused me of being selfish and forgetting where I came from. Here's what's really bothering me. Each time these emergencies arise, they specifically require my property. Not cash contributions, not co-signing for regular loans, but specifically putting my duplex at risk. They've also become increasingly aggressive when I don't immediately comply, using emotional manipulation tactics that I'm only now starting to recognize as abusive. My mother will cry and say things like, "After everything we've done for you," which is ironic considering I've been financially independent since I was 18. My father uses anger and intimidation, raising his voice and making me feel like an ungrateful daughter. My sister alternates between playing the victim and making snide comments about how I've always been cold and calculating, just because I chose engineering over something more feminine. The urgency of these requests is another red flag. There's never time for me to think things through, consult professionals, or even verify the situations they're describing. Everything is always an immediate crisis that only my property can solve. When I mentioned my father's supposed heart condition to my aunt, his sister, last week, she looked confused and said he'd just completed a marathon the previous month and seemed perfectly healthy. I've started documenting everything, saving text messages, recording phone calls, legally, in my state, and keeping a journal of these interactions. Something feels deeply wrong here, but part of me wonders if I'm being paranoid. Am I a terrible daughter for not immediately helping my family in their time of need? Or are my instincts correct that something more sinister is happening? The turning point came yesterday when I ran into my parents' office receptionist at the grocery store. She made an odd comment about how nice it must be that my parents' business is doing so well they can afford to renovate their vacation home. What vacation home? As far as I knew, they were struggling with medical bills. I'm at a crossroads. Do I confront them directly? Do I hire a private investigator? Do I cut contact until I figure out what's really going on? The engineer in me wants facts and data, but the daughter in me is heartbroken that my family might be trying to con me out of my hard-earned asset. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your validation that something was seriously wrong gave me the courage to dig deeper, and what I've discovered has shattered my world in ways I never imagined possible. Following the advice from many of you, I hired both a private investigator and a forensic accountant. What they uncovered is beyond anything I could have imagined in my worst nightmares. My parents have been systematically embezzling from their accounting firm's clients for the past 3 years. The forensic accountant I hired, who specializes in financial fraud cases, identified at least 12 instances where money was moved from client trust accounts into shell companies that ultimately fed back to my parents and sister. We're talking about nearly $800,000 in stolen funds, primarily taken from elderly clients and small business owners who trusted my parents with their financial lives. The money hasn't been going to medical bills or emergency lawsuits. Instead, it's been funding my sister's failing event planning business, which has been hemorrhaging money since its inception. The private investigator discovered that she's been living a lifestyle far beyond her means: a luxury apartment downtown, a leased Mercedes, designer clothes, expensive trips posted all over her social media, all while her business has never turned a profit. She's been telling clients she's booked solid and successful, but in reality, she's had maybe 5 actual events in 2 years, 3 of which resulted in complaints and refund demands. But here's where it gets worse. My parents' scheme is starting to unravel. 2 clients have started asking questions about missing funds, and there's going to be an audit next month. They need my duplex not for collateral for a loan, but to sell it quickly and use the funds to replace the stolen money before the audit discovers the discrepancies. The documents they wanted me to sign at that dinner? They would have given them power of attorney over my property. I confronted them yesterday with my evidence, and I recorded the entire conversation. I'll never forget the moment their facades crumbled. My mother went from crying to screaming to threatening me within the span of 5 minutes. She actually said, "You owe us this. We gave you life." My father tried to maintain his intimidating stance, but when I mentioned the word embezzlement, his face went white. He tried to convince me that it was all a misunderstanding, that they were just borrowing the money and intended to pay it back. My sister's reaction was perhaps the most revealing. When I called her out on her failing business and lifestyle funded by stolen money, she laughed and said, "At least I'm living my life, not hiding behind spreadsheets and construction sites like some robot." Then she added something that chilled me. "Mom and Dad promised me I'd never have to struggle like you did. You chose the hard way. I chose the smart way." The smart way. Stealing from innocent people is the smart way in her mind. I've spent the last 48 hours agonizing over what to do. These are my parents, my sister. The people who were supposed to love and protect me, who I'm supposed to protect in return. But then I think about their clients. The elderly couple saving for retirement, the small business owner trying to make payroll, the single mother planning for her children's education. These victims don't even know yet that their money is gone. After consulting with a lawyer who specializes in financial crimes, I've made my decision. I'm going to the FBI tomorrow morning with all of my evidence. My lawyer has assured me that as a whistleblower who had no involvement in the crimes, I should be protected, but I know this will destroy my family. They'll likely face federal charges, prison time, and the complete dissolution of their lives as they know them. I've also taken steps to protect myself. I've changed all my locks, installed security cameras, and moved my important documents to a safety deposit box. I've blocked them all on my phone and social media, though they've been trying to contact me through other relatives with messages ranging from apologies to threats. My aunt, the one I mentioned in my first post, has been my rock through this. She admitted she suspected something was off for years but never had proof. The hardest part is grieving the family I thought I had. The parents who taught me about hard work and integrity were living a lie. The sister I tried to protect and support throughout our childhood sees me as nothing more than a mark to con. I've been in therapy for the past week, trying to process the betrayal and the guilt I feel for what I'm about to do. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, I stop being a victim and start being a survivor. Update 2. 6 weeks later. The last 6 weeks have been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, emotional upheaval, and unexpected revelations. For those who've been following my story, I wanted to provide an update on where things stand. The FBI raid on my parents' accounting firm happened 3 weeks after I provided them with evidence. It was surreal watching the news coverage, seeing the building I'd visited countless times as a child surrounded by federal agents carrying boxes of documents. The headline read, "Local accounting firm principals arrested in multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme." Multi-million. The investigation revealed the fraud went much deeper than even I had discovered. My parents and sister were all arrested on federal charges including wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The bail hearing was the first time I'd seen them since our confrontation. My mother sobbed through the entire proceeding, while my father kept his head down, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. My sister, ever the performer, tried to maintain her composed facade, but I could see her hands shaking as the judge read the charges. The investigation has uncovered 47 victims over a 5-year period, with losses totaling $2.3 million. The elderly couple I was so worried about? They lost their entire retirement savings of $340,000. The small business owner had to close his shop and lay off 8 employees because his tax reserves were stolen. The stories keep getting worse, and each one adds another layer to my resolve that I did the right thing. My role as the whistleblower has been kept confidential in the legal proceedings, but my family knows it was me. The messages from relatives have been mixed. Some condemn me for betraying family, while others, particularly my aunt, have praised my courage. I've had to block numerous flying monkeys who've tried to guilt me into dropping my cooperation with the FBI. One cousin actually had the audacity to say I should have just given them the duplex and avoided all this drama. The asset forfeiture has begun. My parents' house, their luxury cars, the vacation home I didn't even know existed, all frozen and likely to be liquidated to pay restitution to victims. My sister's apartment lease was terminated, her car repossessed, and her business officially dissolved. She's been staying with a friend, and I heard through the grapevine that she's been telling people I orchestrated everything out of jealousy. The most shocking revelation came last week when investigators found evidence that this wasn't their first attempt at this scheme with me. 2 years ago, when I was saving for my duplex down payment, they had created false documentation to try to add themselves to my bank accounts. The only reason it failed was because I had recently changed banks due to a job relocation, and they had the wrong information. They've been planning to steal from me for years. I've been working with a victim's advocate and have attended several support group meetings for family fraud survivors. It's both heartbreaking and validating to hear others' stories. One woman's brother stole her identity and ruined her credit. A man's parents sold his childhood home out from under him while he was deployed overseas. These stories have helped me understand that family fraud is more common than people realize, and the emotional trauma often exceeds the financial damage. Professionally, my life has taken an unexpected turn. Several of my parents' former clients, after learning I was the whistleblower, have approached me for construction and engineering consulting work. They say they trust my integrity, which means more to me than they'll ever know. My consultancy has grown by 300% in the last month alone, and I've had to hire 2 junior engineers to help with the workload. The legal proceedings are expected to continue for at least another year. The prosecutor has informed me that my parents are each facing 12 to 15 years in federal prison if convicted on all charges. My sister, as a co-conspirator who directly benefited from the fraud, is facing 5 to 7 years. Part of me feels guilty for the role I've played in their downfall, but then I remember the victims, and I remember that they chose this path. Update 3 months later. This will likely be my final update on the situation, as I'm ready to close this chapter and move forward with my life. The last 3 months have brought resolution, justice, and an unexpected new purpose. The trial concluded 2 weeks ago. My parents were both found guilty on all charges: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and 6 additional federal charges related to their abuse of fiduciary duty. The judge, in his sentencing remarks, called their betrayal of their clients' trust particularly heinous, given their position as CPAs and the vulnerability of many of their victims. My father received 12 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. My mother received 11 years. They were also ordered to pay full restitution, though the prosecutor acknowledged it's unlikely the victims will recover more than 40% of their losses. My sister pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges in exchange for testimony against our parents. She received 4 years in federal prison, with the possibility of reduction to 2.5 years with good behavior. During her allocution, she broke down and admitted she knew the money was stolen but felt entitled to it because our parents owed her a good life. She never once apologized to the victims or showed genuine remorse for anyone but herself. Their CPA licenses were permanently revoked, and they're barred from ever working in finance again. The accounting firm was dissolved, and its assets liquidated. The 3 innocent partners at the firm have started their own practice and have publicly distanced themselves from my parents, though they're also facing civil lawsuits from victims. The personal aftermath has been complex. I've continued therapy, which has helped me process not just this betrayal but years of subtle financial and emotional abuse I didn't recognize at the time. I've learned that my parents' manipulation started early, taking out credit cards in my name when I turned 18 to build my credit, but actually using them for their expenses, claiming my college scholarships as their own tax deductions, and constantly undermining my financial independence to maintain control. The extended family has largely split into 2 camps. Some still believe I should have handled it within the family, while others have reached out with their own stories of suspicious financial requests from my parents over the years. My aunt has become my chosen family, and we have dinner every Sunday now, a new tradition built on genuine love rather than manipulation. The most meaningful development has been the creation of the Professional Asset Protection Initiative, PAPI, a program I started with the help of a financial crimes attorney and a therapist specializing in family financial abuse. We provide free workshops for young professionals on recognizing and preventing family financial fraud, setting healthy boundaries, and protecting their assets from predatory relatives. Our first workshop had 12 attendees. Our most recent one had over 60, with a waiting list for the next session. The stories I've heard have been both heartbreaking and inspiring. Young doctors whose parents demanded access to their salaries for the family good. Engineers whose siblings felt entitled to their success. Teachers whose extended families viewed them as ATMs despite their modest incomes. We've also created a mentorship program pairing survivors of family financial fraud with those currently facing similar situations. I've personally mentored 3 young women who were being pressured by their families to compromise their financial security. One successfully prevented her mother from stealing her identity, another safely extracted herself from a family business that was being used to launder money, and the third is currently working with law enforcement to address her own situation. My engineering consultancy has continued to thrive. I've expanded to 7 employees and we've secured 2 major municipal contracts. I've been transparent with my team about my story, and it's created a culture of integrity and mutual support that I'm incredibly proud of. We've also implemented a pro bono program where we provide engineering services to rebuilding efforts for small businesses affected by financial crimes. The duplex that started this all remains mine, free and clear. The tenant in the other unit, an elderly woman who reminded me of one of my parents' victims, recently told me she feels safe knowing her landlord is someone with integrity. That comment meant more to me than any professional achievement. I've started dating someone, a fellow engineer who understands my need for financial transparency and independence. He's met my aunt, knows my entire story, and has never once suggested I should reconcile with my family because they're blood. He jokes that I'm the most thorough person he knows, running background checks on contractors and keeping meticulous records of everything. He doesn't know that these habits saved my life. Last week, I received a letter from my mother in prison. I didn't open it. I gave it to my therapist, who keeps it in a file in case I ever want to read it. I don't think I will. I've said everything I needed to say in my victim impact statement, where I spoke not just for myself but for all the daughters and sons who've been viewed as piggy banks by the people who should have protected them. To those who followed my story and offered support, thank you. Your validation and encouragement gave me strength when I felt most alone. To those facing similar situations, trust your instincts. Document everything. Seek professional help. Remember that DNA doesn't give anyone the right to destroy your financial future. Family is supposed to be about love, support, and mutual respect. When it becomes about exploitation, manipulation, and entitlement, it's not family anymore. It's just a group of predators who happen to share your last name. Protecting yourself from predators isn't betrayal, it's survival. I'm building a new life now, one founded on genuine relationships, professional integrity, and the knowledge that I chose justice over complicity. My parents and sister made their choices, and they're living with the consequences. I made mine, and despite the pain it's caused, I'm finally free. The duplex is still mine. My integrity is intact. And for the first time in my life, I'm surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not what they can take from me. That's worth more than any inheritance they could have offered. Final reflection. 6 months later. I wasn't planning to write again, but today marks exactly 1 year since that first suspicious dinner where my parents tried to manipulate me into signing over my duplex. As I sit in my home office, preparing for tomorrow's Poppy workshop with 45 registered attendees, I'm struck by how fundamentally my life has changed. The Professional Asset Protection Initiative has evolved into a registered nonprofit with federal 501(c)(3) status. We've helped over 200 young professionals protect their assets from family fraud, and we've partnered with 3 major banks to provide financial literacy and protection seminars. Last month, I was invited to speak at a national conference on financial crimes about the unique challenges of family-perpetrated fraud. My consultancy just landed our biggest contract yet, a multi-million-dollar infrastructure assessment project for the state. The project manager specifically mentioned that our firm's reputation for integrity was a deciding factor. I've promoted 2 of my junior engineers to senior positions, and we're planning to expand to a second office location next year. The restitution process for my parents' victims continues slowly. So far, about $400,000 has been recovered through asset liquidation, but it's a fraction of what was stolen. I've personally contributed $50,000 to a victims fund, not out of obligation but out of compassion for those whose lives were destroyed by my family's greed. I recently learned through legal channels that my sister has been enrolled in a prison education program, studying bookkeeping of all things. My parents have had no such rehabilitation efforts. My father apparently spends his time filing frivolous appeals, while my mother has been moved to a mental health unit after what was described as a breakdown when she realized her social circle had completely abandoned her. The hardest lesson I've learned is that sometimes the family we're born into is just the rough draft. The real family, the one we choose, the one that truly supports us, that's the final version. My chosen family now includes my aunt, my partner, we're moving in together next month, my employees who become friends, and the entire Poppy community who understand the unique pain of family betrayal. I still have nightmares sometimes. I still occasionally catch myself looking over my shoulder, expecting to see one of them. I still have moments where the guilt threatens to overwhelm me. But these moments are becoming rarer, replaced by pride in what I've built and hope for what's to come. If you're reading this because you're facing something similar, know this: the path to justice is painful, isolating, and filled with doubt. But on the other side is freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from fear, from the constant anxiety of waiting for the next crisis they'll manufacture. You deserve that freedom, regardless of whose DNA you share. Family isn't about blood. It's about trust, respect, and genuine love. When those things are absent, you're not obligated to maintain relationships that drain your financial security, emotional well-being, or future potential. You have the right to protect yourself, your assets, and your dreams from anyone who would exploit them, especially those who use family as a weapon of manipulation. The duplex still stands, now worth 30% more than when I bought it thanks to the area's development. Both units are occupied by good tenants, and the rental income is funding Poppy's expansion. What was meant to be stolen and liquidated has instead become a foundation for helping others. That's the best revenge I could have asked for, not just surviving their betrayal, but transforming it into something that helps others escape similar situations. They tried to tear me down to build themselves up. Instead, their actions led to the creation of a support system that will help hundreds, maybe thousands, protect themselves from predators like them. My name is different now, legally changed to distance myself from their legacy. My phone number is new, my address is unlisted, and my social media is locked down. But I'm not hiding. I'm simply choosing who has access to my life, and that list no longer includes people who view my success as their opportunity. The civil engineer in me appreciates the irony. They tried to demolish my foundation, but instead, I've built something stronger, more resilient, and earthquake-proof. No amount of family manipulation can shake what I've constructed from the rubble of their betrayal. This is my final update because this chapter is closed. My parents and sister are serving their sentences. The victims are slowly rebuilding. And I'm no longer defined by their betrayal but by my response to it. To everyone who stood by me, offered advice, and validated my instincts, thank you. You helped save not just my duplex but my entire future. And to anyone currently being pressured to sacrifice their financial security for family members who've shown no respect for your hard work and achievements, trust your instincts. Document everything. Seek professional help. And remember, protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Your assets aren't your family's backup plan. Your success isn't their safety net. And your future isn't theirs to steal. Stand firm. Stand strong. And never let anyone, especially family, convince you that their greed is your obligation.